spending over 100,000 yuan on a big platinum watch only to end up with a piece of junk. Could you tolerate something like that? If you don't want something like that to happen to you, stick with me and watch this review to the end. Hello everyone, today I'm bringing you a review of a very typical case. A friend sent over a watch, and while it's hard to pinpoint exactly what's wrong, he just felt the watch wasn't refined enough, even though he spent over 100,000 yuan to have it made. And after just a couple of days, the crown fell off. So he sent it over and asked me to help fix the problem. But when I received it and took a look, oh my god, from a professional standpoint, this watch is simply unbearable to look at. So today, I want to share this case with everyone through this video. In the future, I hope this helps all you watch enthusiasts avoid some pitfalls and costly mistakes when choosing to customize a gold watch. Alright, the watch in front of us is from the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak series, which many watch lovers are familiar with. This is the highly sought after, ultra-thin chronograph model, the 26331B4. Today, I'm presenting this watch to everyone, and I hope you can take your time to appreciate it. I'll also point out some issues with this watch, so that in the future, when you're buying a watch, you can have a better understanding. First, let me give you a clear understanding of the genuine version of this watch. I'll display the official information here. The official retail price is 510,000, while the current second-hand market price is around 1.4 to 1.5 million, so it's definitely in the million level price range. It's a celebrity model, so a lot of collectors really like this watch. However, its price makes us very hesitant and unable to buy it without a second thought. But it's precisely because of this that I have the opportunity today to share this with all of you. By chance, this watch ended up in my hands. Originally, the owner just wanted me to help fix a crown issue, but when I saw this watch I was so surprised that I couldn't help but share my astonishment and thoughts with my friend. After my collector friend saw it, he said he couldn't handle it anymore. He just couldn't look at this watch directly. He asked me, "Dabao, could you help me do something about it?" Of course, if modifying and upgrading can solve this problem, then it has to be done. So right now in front of us, there are two watches. One is the one I've already finished, a complete watch that meets my delivery standards. The other one is just the case of the watch that he sent back to me. When I first received this watch, I specifically took a photo and posted it in a group so everyone could see it. The watch was in a certain condition, whether it was the CNC craftsmanship of the gold case or some of the assembly standards. All of that was on display. There were a lot of issues. First of all, as you can see on the screen, the movement is very dirty. It's not a brand new 1285 movement. It's a used movement from Shanghai that hasn't been cleaned or oiled at all. Of course, I definitely had to address this problem. I had it cleaned and oiled again to keep the movement in a clean state. With a thorough cleaning, the watch will run much better in the future. Secondly, the dial they're using here is from SW, and as for the quality of the replacement date disc and hands, everyone knows that SW, as a studio specializing in aftermarket parts, generally has pretty good quality overall. However, even with aftermarket parts, it's not like we can just use the dial and hands straight out of the box. The assembly of the dial and hands is already quite obvious. The width of the hour markers, for example, is inconsistent. You can take a closer look at the pictures to see this detail. Next, the screws at the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock positions on the bezel protrude from the bezel and show obvious signs of being over-tightened. This issue arises because the data used to make the screw molds for the C version wasn't precise enough, resulting in screws that are generally too small. Most importantly, there are clear problems with the double groove hammering process, as seen in the slanted and front-facing pit patterns. The sizes are completely different, which causes the overall texture of this watch to be inconsistent and quite disappointing. Let's go back to the watch we've finished and its original case and take a closer look. The color, hue, and brilliance of the two watches are on completely different levels. If we look closely, one is our finished product, which is extremely dazzling and bright, while the other, the sheep case, appears overall grey and dull, lacking that distinctly brilliant effect. This difference is especially obvious. This is the craftsmanship involved in making a two-tone gold watch. It's completely substandard, far too careless. The layering and depth of polishing are simply not comparable. Another point is that the main reason the crown fell off is because the craftsman who assembled it used only glue and the inner lining to secure it, whereas our proper installation method relies on metal stress compression, with glue only used as a filler to ensure airtightness. To put it simply, we use a proper method to press it in, while others just stick it on with glue. These two fixing methods result in completely different outcomes, both in terms of stability and airtightness. As for other aspects, I will give you a detailed demonstration during the review later. In addition, this watch is actually the most suitable for modification among all the million-level precious metal watches. Why? Because it has a good substitute dial and a genuine date display. Secondly, it also has the particularly reasonably priced 1185 movement, which can be used as a substitute. The 1185 movement is a universal movement, and it actually shares the same origin as Audemars Piguet's original 32385 movement from 2023. They come from the same source, just under different brands, and when used, only the automatic rotor and some details are changed. The engraving and lettering on this movement have been slightly adjusted, and even Chopard uses this movement as well. An ultra-thin movement with chronograph functionality and a calendar is extremely rare, so with such a great alternative movement that also features a flyback calendar, the custom 26331 watch naturally came into being. This has led to many businesses that modify and rebrand watches trying to break into this field, but the quality really varies greatly. So this year, through this review, I want to give everyone a good look at the two-tone models we are currently producing. What kind of standard do the 18-karat gold case and assembly craftsmanship present? This will give everyone a good reference for comparison. I also took some photos of the dial, hands, and date details of this watch. I've put them on the public screen so everyone can take a look, whether it's the polishing of the hands or the application of the luminous paint, as well as the details and texture of the 3 chronograph subdials actually compared to the original version. To be honest, there are indeed some differences from the original, but this sense of difference, at a normal social distance when wearing it, it's already very hard to notice these differences with the naked eye. Unless you look from a relatively professional perspective, using a macro lens or a magnifying glass to examine these details, you might be able to spot some clues. But in normal social situations and for non-professionals, it's already impossible to see any obvious issues just by looking, so you can be completely assured about the quality of the SW version of this Reserve Power Pointer date watch. Let's take a closer look and get a feel for the overall texture of the watch. The total weight of the watch is 250 grams, and that's after we've finished assembling it and adjusted the strap. The total weight is 251 grams. 251 grams. The original watch weighs just under 260 grams, so ours is just a few grams heavier. This slight difference of a few grams is really negligible. Excluding the power reserve hand and dial, the overall weight of this watch is 235.62 grams. That is, without the movement and hands, just the empty case, the crystal and the screws, this is the weight you get. So gold watches really do look great. They're classy and luxurious, but they are indeed quite heavy. When you wear one, that weight on your wrist is something most people who haven't worn such high-end watches before will really need some time to get used to. Let's take a good look and compare. Both watches have 18-karat gold cases, and their overall costs are about the same. But because of the differences in the combination of metals and manufacturing techniques, there's already a very obvious difference in texture and feel. So, at the same price, which one would you choose? One is kind of dull and grey, another is also dull and grey, while the other is brilliantly dazzling. Next, let's take a look at the screws on this watch. These are the screws we've polished, and now they're recessed overall. When we first received this watch, the screws were protruding. Also, when we first got this watch, the end link of the bracelet here, it couldn't move at all. We also helped to make the end link movable. As for the depth of the screw recess after our work, the screws are now set in much deeper than the entire double ridge of the bezel, no matter where you look. Whether it's at the bezel, the lugs, or any part of the strap, the fineness and brilliance of the double ridge are completely consistent. So, good craftsmanship truly determines the final quality and feel. Don't go for something like this just to save a few thousand yuan. The difference between the two styles is already very obvious. Alright, when it comes to the texture of the two-tone gold and some of the craftsmanship details, we can see the size of the screws. Let's take a closer look. It's clearly different. When I received this watch, there were very obvious assembly or screw marks on the rose gold parts. But as you can see, after we repaired it, those original marks have been completely fixed. We ensure that every indicator meets our assembly standards. There are no assembly marks on the rose gold at all. That's the first point. The second point is that the water resistance can reach the level of the genuine product. The yellow teeth pixels on Abby's watch can all support swimming. Our watch can also be taken and put in a pool to soak in water as you like. Whether it's cold or hot water, there are no issues at all. Next, as we saw earlier when we first received this watch, the dial, hands and calendar were I've shown you all the details. The original watch's dial markers were already noticeably crooked. After our adjustment, you can take a close look at each marker. Every single one is perfectly straight, whether it's at the 12 o'clock position or any other, even when viewed in a static state. Whether it's the 12 o'clock position, the 4 o'clock position, the 6 o'clock position, or even the 9 o'clock position, all the markers have been adjusted to be perfectly straight. The distance between these markers and the white scale lines near the outer edge has also been handled exceptionally well. This is the second point. Regarding the hands, the original watch's hands show obvious signs of assembly, such as marks from tweezers and traces that look like they've been pressed with putty. After we finished assembling the hands, you can take a close look. There isn't any dirt visible on the hands at all. Dust. This is a strict quality control standard we uphold in our assembly process. Whether it's the chronograph hand, the hour hand, the minute hand, or the chronograph second hand, every detail is extremely clear. To prove the level of our assembly, I have also taken this watch's high-resolution photos and posted them on the public screen, so everyone can take a good look at the quality of our assembly. You can freely compare it with others in the industry. I've been making watches for 7 or 8 years now, and I've been customizing watches for nearly 4 years. I really scrutinize every single detail so that everyone can experience it directly. This is also my way of respecting your high level of spending. For players who pursue high quality, this is the responsibility I should bear. First, let's take a look at the index at the 12 o'clock position. It's perfectly straight and centered, and the index at the 9 o'clock position has also been precisely aligned using infrared calibration. Every detail, including the entire dial and the hands, is presented in a high-definition state, with no dust or assembly marks whatsoever. When it comes to the details of the hand axle, the solid hand axle, every position, whether it's the central hand axle or the chronograph subdial axle, we've done an excellent job with all these details. You can compare for yourselves, I may boast, but after you compare, you'll know whether I'm really just bragging or not. Including the screws, if you look closely at every screw we assemble, there are absolutely no marks from screwdrivers. This is our unique technique, and the screws as a whole have a recessed effect. It's all done extremely well. Finally, let's take another look at the texture of the two-tone gold. You can see just how refined our two-tone gold is. It's as if a thick layer of gold dust has been sprinkled over the watch's exterior without any obvious unevenness or irregular pits. It's incredibly brilliant. Every detail, including the fine matte finish on the clasp. The matte texture inside is extremely delicate, and when I polish it clean, it shines brilliantly. These areas are as perfect as a mirror. Now let's take a look at the original case. You can clearly see the unevenness here, and it's obvious that this part is on a single flat plane. The lugs here are full of bumps and dents, and they get narrower at this point. If you look here, you'll notice that the two types of textures are completely different. They're not even in the same league. The difference is huge. It's like, I really can't bear to look at it. It's honestly disgusting. All I can say is, it's really disgusting. Look here at the area where everyone submitted. Actually, this part is relatively more delicate, but it's not even enough, so there's no reflection at all. But when you get to the denser areas, it triggers my trypophobia, that physiological reaction to dense holes. With such a rough texture, how could it possibly be shiny? It's just not possible. So when it comes to custom watches, you really have to be cautious. Look around and compare more options. Don't let the temptation of saving a little money lead you to buy something that will break your heart. Like this person who spent so much, over 100,000, on something like this, and in the end found it unbearable and disgusting. They had to spend the price of another watch to come to me and have another one made. Doesn't that actually end up costing you more? The most cost-effective way is to go straight for the best quality from the start. That's the most economical approach, especially for those of us who can afford to buy such high-end, million-level luxury watches. You have to spend your money where it really counts. Finally, the overall size of this watch is 41mm with a thickness of 11mm. After our modifications, the thickness is also quite good. Let me show you. The thickness after our work can be said to be almost indistinguishable from the genuine one. Take a look at it. It's a tight fit. I have tape on here, and it's still a snug fit. We achieved a thickness of 11.1mm, meaning the overall thickness only differs by 0.1mm. A difference of 0.1mm is negligible. So, if you have the means and opportunity to get your hands on this ultra-thin multifunction chronograph, I recommend it. Ah, he must be the most handsome guy. I've already adjusted this watch strap to our friend's wrist and it fits perfectly. His wrist is the same size as mine, and the feeling of wearing it is amazing. You can see how it feels on my wrist. After putting it on, my wrist has become precious. Haha. Well everyone, the same old saying applies. Listen, watch, compare, and ask more to avoid pitfalls. The Royal Oak is a slower paced 331 with a purple dial and double gold. Finally, let's take a look at the luminous effect of the dial and hands on this watch. There's also a detail about the date display, but I won't turn off the lights here, just bear with me. This kind of jade green luminous effect is already stunning, and in complete darkness, the brightness would be even more intense. Lastly, let's take another look at the date, the three-dimensional print quality of the date indicator itself. When it's in a full state and during assembly, the date display must be perfectly centered. Only then can the overall quality of the watch be elevated. If you get the lugs right but the date window is misaligned and every date jumps off center, that's just terrible. It's like having a pot of delicious broth with a single rat dropping in it. Wouldn't that just disgust you? Alright everyone, that's it for today's review. If you have more questions or want to discuss more details about watches, feel free to leave a comment or contact me directly. We can have a detailed discussion. See you in the next episode.